All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are now live. And tonight, I hope that I won't be a filthy stain because our guest makes his long awaited return to Sportswire Radio. And boy, what an impact you might want to say he's made the past few weeks. Maybe he's pulling the strings after all. After all, once upon a time, it was months ago he was talking about a guy that used to come on here all the time, that used to be a hardcore king and was a whole bunch of things, was having his strings pulled. But really, is it a Grim Reaper? And is it going to conclude upcoming at Summer Bash? No, not that Summer Bash. This Summer Bash upcoming in Tennessee Backyard Wrestling, where a Grim Reaper will take away a championship from another family, and maybe it's our guest who has a profit like guarantee at Summer Bash, and maybe we'll talk about why this family seems to be not imploding, unlike that other family, which we saw. Boy, did it certainly dive into that on Rampage 167. We'll most certainly talk about that, and we'll talk about why we're not getting the Black Fox and why we're getting Jacob Young and not Jacob Anderson. And we'll talk about maybe even a few things that Jay Wild himself said about, well, I don't know, could be at Summer Bash that our guest cousin could be going 6 feet under. But then again, it seemed our guest was talking about, well, he's not so impressed with the champion, and he sees him more as, well, I guess his former incarnations. Like, how about heavy metal Jay Wild? How about hardcore Jay Wild? I know one thing right now. It certainly dived into a Donnybrook at Rampage 167. It's going to continue on the road to Summer Bash, and our guest is going to tell us about it and some more. Maybe in his usual way, he won't tell us about it, but you'll have to find out. But it's good. Hopefully I won't be a filthy stain, and hopefully the Grim Reaper won't come after me like he's been diving into some of his opponents recently, like Chaotic and Russell Cooper, and he sure did give Alan Michaels a whole lot of trouble that he wasn't able to set too many trends. But I won't set any trends with this introduction. I'll certainly keep it rather more of a less of a Black Fox introduction, you might want to say. In prime time, the brightest lights, the biggest stage, the only platform where all wrestling matters. And let's introduce our guest now and get right to it. So with that, without further ado, here on the Sports Report. Number one, Cable Sports Show. He was once upon a time Jacob Anderson. He was once upon a time the Black Fox. He may or may not have been the Puppet Master. I would certainly hope I'm not a filthy stain, but his name is simply put Jacob My friend, how are you tonight?
I'm excellent. How are you, Mr. Brooks?
I'm good. Hopefully, like I said throughout the first 5 minutes, I won't be a filthy stain because I've seen what's happened to the likes of Chaotic. I've seen what's happened to the likes of Russell Cooper. I've seen what's happened to the likes of my buddy, maybe not your buddy, the trendsetter, Alan Michaels. And I certainly don't want to be, as you've guaranteed, a future filthy stain and a man that used to be heavy metal Jay Wild, hardcore Jay Wild, but simply put, the Prophet Jay Wild, the current TBW World Heavyweight Champion. So hopefully I won't be a filthy stain, unlike those individuals. But obviously, a lot to talk about here, and I'll pull up some footage. We'll talk about some different things, but I guess I'll have to ask you to start things off. For those that are listening and watching here in prime time, the brightest lights, the biggest stage, the only platform where all wrestling matters, Jacob Young. Why Jacob Young when it comes to this real allegiance or this real alliance with your cousin, the Grim Reaper, Joe Anderson?
1 second, I'm having technical difficulties.
Well, hopefully Jay Wild has not come and decided to put a filthy stain on your Wi-Fi. Hopefully he has tried to fix. And there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. Has the prophecy, has they all of a sudden now once again tried to reclaim internet connections? Have they seen that Jacob Young was here live? And has Jay Wild started the mind games? We know what Beast has done here in the past. Wait a minute. It looks like Jacob Young is here. Jacob Young, I was concerned to the fact that just maybe the Prophet Jay Wild and Beast and Chaotic and Jinx were more or less trying to maybe a filthy stain on your Wi-Fi. I'm glad that you're okay, and the prophecy hasn't tried to do anything to the internet ahead of Summer Bash.
You see, the prophecy believes they can affect technology. They believe they can affect people's health and just get away with stuff. But that's not the case with me. You see, they ask you to fear them. They ask you to fear them. We don't ask for fear. We encourage it.
Well, I would say that I definitely am going to encourage you to talk as much as possible tonight. I am certainly, I've had my own run ins with the prophecy because Mr. Chaotic was here a week and a half ago and Beast was here. And boy, was Beast, he was dropping rhymes and he was just dropping dimes on everybody. So I'm going to certainly hope not to get in those crosshairs like I did with them. But I'll go back to what I said earlier before maybe Jay Wild or maybe not Jay Wild and the prophecy tried to put a filthy stain on your Wi-Fi. Why Jacob Young now when it comes to this realliance with your cousin, the Grim Reaper, Joe Anderson?
If you watch back a couple episodes ago, 158, I believe,
Yep, I
is the
got the
correct
footage. We're gonna play it
episode.
in a minute. Yep.
I told everybody that the rivalry was done, but I didn't say that I was done with Joe Anderson. You see,
Mm.
I saw something in Joe Anderson. I saw that lack of spark, that lack of attitude, that lack of hatred, that lack of wanting to be at the top. And I hated it because I felt like he deserves it. I feel like he knows, and I believe that he knows deep in his heart that the Grim Reaper, Joe Anderson, is better than the Joe Anderson that he's been giving us lately.
Well, that's a good point in a way because we were talking about this off the air. Joe Anderson, once upon a time, was unstoppable. He was the world heavyweight champion. He was a man that was at the top of the scene. He was a man that was just a force that there was nobody that could put him down. And the last year or so, it's been almost the opposite of it. But now it seems like he's finally, I don't know if he's come to the dark side, quote unquote. I'm not going to go there necessarily, but it seems like maybe these last few weeks, the Grim Reaper Joe Anderson is taking your advice. Is that a more accurate reflection of what's going on here in Tennessee backyard wrestling, you think?
Well, Tom, that's the thing. Joe doesn't. I don't want people to think Joe needs me because that's not the case. Yeah, he needed a voice to wake him back up. Yeah, he needed something to make him realize that he was struggling. And yeah, he needed something in himself to awaken. And I brought the lantern back, and you seen me hand it to him. I handed him the lantern. I gave him the power that he needed, and he controls it.
We saw it in the
He,
match with Chaotic. We saw it in the situation with Cooper, and we've seen it these last, on and off the last few weeks. It's all of a sudden, it's a different Joe Anderson.
and yeah, when I tell him to rise, he may rise, but he still falls. He still falters sometimes. But that's okay. You see, unlike the Prophet Jay Wild, and I will speak his name because I'm not afraid.
Well, that was our last actually Tennessee backyard wrestling guest who was in that family. Did not even want to mention his name, and he didn't even want to use those brass knuckles as well.
You see, if his so called son was on my team, was
Mm.
in my family, I wouldn't treat him like dirt. I would give him the power that he wants to have, and I'd give him the control of his own character. I just simply would speak for him sometimes if he needed me to, because that's what I do. I'm good at talking. I'm probably one of the best in TBW at it.
I
And
would
Jay
say that
Wild,
you're one of the most interesting ones. I mean, yeah, I would say you're one of the most interesting talkers in TBW for sure. Absolutely.
and Jay Wild may sit there and say that he's gonna bury Joe Anderson. Well, that's not really a threat because he was in a casket match against somebody before. If I recall, he won that match. So, what can you do to the Grim Reaper that hasn't already been done? What can you put him through, Jay Wild, that hasn't already been tried? He's going to just keep rising up. And even if even if the stars don't align and we don't win the World Heavyweight Championship at Summer Bash, he's going to rise up and he's going to be bigger, he's going to be stronger, he's going to be darker, and then there's nothing and no one who can stand in the way. What are you going to do when you have an unleashed Grim Reaper who's angry and upset if he does lose? But I don't think that's going to happen. I think the prophecy and the prophet is going to fall and they're going to crumble. And then somebody, I don't know who, is going to show Jay Wild the truth. And the truth
I will,
is,
God,
he has no one.
it's funny you said that, and I want to go back to that. I'll play the footage from last week's show, and we want to thank obviously our friends in TBW for allowing us to do that. But going back on the World Championship, and you brought up Summer Bash, which we know is obviously going to take place in a matter of weeks. I'll put up the TBW banners shortly on that. But you talked about a guarantee also on last week's show. I mean, do you want to talk about why you're so confident about what's coming up and making guarantees there, Jacob Young? I mean, that's, I mean, you definitely are one of the more talkers. That's no question about that. But you that confident coming up here against Jay Well, despite everything you guys are doing right now, and you say Jay Wild and he doesn't have the family and it's all a facade, it's all an act. But I've seen what Jay Wild has done to the likes of the Nature Boy Gage, Flair the Woo Man, Russell Cooper, a man Joe Anderson's defeated recently, and my friend the trendsetter Alan Michaels. I mean, the run that Jay Wild is on, some would say he's the greatest TBW champion in history. And I mean, you still confident? You want to talk about why you guaranteed at Summer Bash a victory for the audience?
I guaranteed something.
You
I
did.
guaranteed maybe a win. But you see, at the end of the day, the guarantee is this.
Yes.
Guarantee is win or lose. Joe Anderson, the Grim Reaper, will rise up and he will be the biggest name in TBW. He'll be the darkest force in TBW. He will be the most feared in TBW, not because he asked to be feared, but because he deserves to be feared.
He
Because
did
with
deserve
every
to be feared. Why?
yeah, every move that he makes, every step that he takes, he leaves no souls. You've seen how Russell Cooper reacted. He grew him a fancy beard and then and then said the truth. He said that he felt like his soul was missing from his body. So even if you win, Jay Wild, you'll lose a piece of yourself to the Grim Reaper. And when you do, remember, I warned you.
Ooh, I maybe you guys have Jay Wild at the right time. Maybe or maybe not. But I do want to actually pull up the footage first. Let's go back in time for a second. I know there's people that are coming into this and they're going to have some things to say. We'll do that in a second, but I actually want to go to something here first for the audience. So I'm going to share this screen because you talked about a couple things here, and I want to go to that first. We were talking about this off the air. We are with Jacob Young, of course, whose cousin, the Grim Reaper, Joe Anderson, is the #1 contender to the Tennessee Backyard Wrestling World Heavyweight Championship. He'll be squaring off at Summer Bash in a matter of weeks against Jay Wild, the current champion. So we're obviously going to pull this up here. I'm going to put this on the screen. I want to get what you said.
You all seen last week when I put the Grim Reaper down. I beat him in a 2 out of 3 falls match. Now, as I addressed before that match, as far as I'm concerned, that rivalry is done.
Okay. Why is that important? Now, this was about 4 months ago. You said the rivalry was done. So, looking back in time, did we not see this coming, but yet we should have known all along that maybe, just maybe, you and the Grim Reaper Joe Anderson, there was the potential of this happening if things turned out the way they did? Did we all miss something months ago? Because if I recall correctly, you were here right around this time on this platform. You came here before that match against the man that you called once upon a time the Atomic Twerp. You called the Atomic Titan the Atomic Twerp, and you obviously wrestled him. Well, not going to go into that because, well, you're the man right now that's here, and actually you're the one that seems like who's got the better end of the stick. But did we not 4 months ago should have seen this coming, that the rivalry is over and this maybe could have led to where we are today?
Like I said with Russell Cooper, sometimes you just got to watch your surroundings.
But it seemed like you told us these things. You were here. You were here on this platform and you were telling us kind of in sort of a way, not to say that this was going to definitely happen where it's all going to crystallize, but you were basically inferring that things could happen at any time. And you went on the air on 158 and basically said the rivalry is over. So that was 4 months ago, and here we are now. Are you the real prophet?
Oh, people can call me whatever they want. I'll, I'll take the puppet master being called that by Jay Wild. I'll be called the prophet by you. That flatters me, to be honest. But you see, It's the strings that tie us that are bound that ultimately form the path that we walk.
Hmm.
And sometimes those strings can get tangled and you just gotta untangle them and
Boy,
walk
are
through
they untangled. Boy, I'll tell you what, they're definitely untangled. I know that there are a few people in the chat. I will get to you. I know that you'd like to say some things in the chat. I'll get to you for sure. But speaking of being the puppet master, speaking of being the owner, before I get to some footage, there was something you sent me that you specifically wanted me to put up on the screen. Because if I don't put it up on the screen, well, after all, I might be the filthy stain. I don't want to certainly be in that position of the likes of Jay Wild and the likes of even Chaotic and Russell Cooper and Alan Michaels. And let me put this up on the screen here because I actually think it'll kind of, in a way, go to what you more or less might be. I mean, for those that are listening and watching here, this is not my words. This was a comment on the TBW YouTube page. But are you the owner of Joe Anderson? That's right. Are you the owner? You're not just a cousin of his. You're not just even the puppet master. Apparently, on the TBW YouTube page, this comment came up. Are you the owner of Joe Anderson? I didn't realize slavery was still in effect, I guess. Apparently, that's what one person's kind of alluding to. I mean, would you want to comment? Do you want to give a take on this at all in any way?
First off, as I stated a second ago, Tom, because apparently you're hard of hearing or something,
I am. Yes, I
I,
can hear.
I, I handed Joe the lantern.
Yes.
I handed him his lantern. I gave him the power, unlike other people in the past have tried to control him and make him bend to their will. I let him hold the lantern and hold it for as long as he wants because he is the light in the lantern. He is the
He may
light.
be the light. Yes, I did see that, but I still have to ask you the question about whether you would be the owner and how did you feel about that comment?
I don't own anybody, but I do appreciate the second comment. That one's a little bit better.
Yes, you are a good talker. You are one of the better talkers in TBW. Yes, I agree with that. And I did not put that comment just for the audience to know, but there's many people that put comments, but you're definitely a good talker, but definitely, though, not the owner. And if anything, you've given Joe Anderson control of owning himself then, basically. So maybe I should get my ears checked. I need to get a lot of things checked. And that really, Joe Anderson's the only person that owns Joe Anderson. And for the first time in quite a while, you're starting to see him realize that.
He just needed somebody to show him that they cared, somebody to show him that he mattered to them. And a long time ago, he mattered to me as Muscle. And a long time ago, he mattered to me as a partner and as a cousin. And as a matter of fact, check your records if I'm wrong, but technically, still champs. But that doesn't matter.
Okay, fair enough. Let me ask you a follow-up question. What do you think then is different this time compared to before with you two? What do you think is different?
This time, I don't see him as Muscle. I see him as what he is. I see him as the dark person who wants to be let out of his cage because he's felt so trapped, buried behind the people who don't really have anything else to do. He's been lost in the card.
Yeah, it's a pretty accurate statement. I've talked about him over the past few months, and it was kind of like he was just thrown to the side. He was almost an afterthought. You think about whether it was the hardcore title situation late last year, early this year, whether it was just the whole situation with Robbie Andrews. I mean, Joe Anderson, he wasn't the Grim Reaper anymore. He was kind of lost. He was more like lost in translation rather than the Grim Reaper. And now, for the first time in quite a while, it seems like, again, to the counter of that comment we put up on the screen, Joe Anderson owns Joe Anderson, and it's due to your help and maybe you and your advice. And that's kind of why we see him now as the number one contender to that Tennessee Backyard Wrestling World Heavyweight Championship against the Prophet Jay Wild. Well,
And
we'll
I keep,
certainly see. Oh, go ahead.
yeah, I keep bringing up the past, and that's not what I'm intending to do, but it's true somewhat. But you see, he took the last name from me originally, and Jay Wild wants to ramble on and keep bringing up our past. Like,
Well,
it's
you
not
said it's
about,
over. You said yourself 4 months ago that's over. So it's over.
yeah, it's not about me and Reaper's past, because that's done. We're now seeing eye to eye. We're now seeing cousin to cousin, and we're now connecting more than we ever have because he was wearing all white. Jesus.
Well, there you are. And there's the Lander, which comes up later in the show. And you guys came out, and what a segment this was. And to kick things off after Rebellion. And boy, you guys have definitely created your own moments. And it's just a whole different Joe Anderson. And you just seem to now know how to fire all the cylinders to get Joe Anderson back to where he was. And I mean, Joshua Allen looks like a deer in the headlights almost.
Joshua Allen is dealing with so many problems that he forgets sometimes what's happening around him, and you have to remind him.
He's got maybe the toughest job in this circuit right now because,
And I feel for you. I feel for you, my friend. But at the end of the day, sometimes you're just in the way.
So what do you think he should do, though? I mean, right now he's got your situation to handle. He's got Jay Wild, who's been as his face every single week. I mean, I'm not even going to go there and bring up your old opponent, Atomic Titan. I mean, he's got what Michaels and Cooper are trying to do. I mean, he's got the whole situation with Gage Flair and Jay Klosh and Johnny J. And I mean, I don't even know Joshua Allen. What anywhere he turns, he makes someone angry. I mean, he might have the tough man. You know what? He might even have the toughest job in America right now. I mean, I wouldn't want to be Joshua Allen right now. Who would have thought I would have said that a couple months ago, or a couple weeks ago? But I mean, I almost want to say I pity Joshua Allen right now. And I mean, you guys are talking, and I think everybody seems to be listening.
See, unlike the prophet who runs around and says that he's the greatest and he's in control, we don't want your power, Josh, because your power comes with unnecessary clutter. We just want what Jay Wild has.
Well, it's all an act. So you think it's all an act with Jay Wild, then, right? It's all an act.
Jay Wild is dark. Don't get me wrong. He broke something in his head, but I am responsible for that.
So you know him better than anybody, then. You're the guy that basically sees right through him, where these other guys like Cooper and Michaels and even Flair and certainly James Taylor, once upon a time, they weren't able to solve those riddles. But you seem to know him better than anybody, and you're not fazed at all by him.
I'm not, because what happened? What happened? We could bring up the past. What happened what happened when I beat him? For the hardcore championship. He disappeared for months and then started the prophecy.
Yeah. Well, let's watch this with the audience is starting to build, and let's watch.
Where you belong. You really think you deserve anything like this belt? You might have had it last season because you got lucky, because you buried somebody that you know you couldn't beat. Me, on the other hand, I know I'm the greatest TBW champ. I'm the biggest.
It wasn't me who was booing, just so you know.
I'm sorry. I'll talk to the guy that actually can speak a promo, that can talk. You know the history that we have. You're still on med leave, by the way, because I hurt you so bad. Don't. You know how many headshots that I've taken from Flair? You know how many headshots I've taken, even from Mr. I don't know, what do you want to call him, Mr. Showtime, ringleader? You don't tell me to shut up. You don't tell me to shut up at all. I'm the TBW champ.
I don't care what you think you are. You see, after Summer Bash, you'll be nothing but a memory. Nothing but a filthy stain. You think you're something? You think you're somebody just because you have a world championship now? All you are is the former hardcore Jay Wild.
What I've said on Sportzwire many
nothing.
times. Sometimes a championship belt is a prop. There you go.
I don't know what's going on right here with this kinship, but I thought for the longest time you two weren't together. What happened here? Is he now your little bitch boy now? Is that what he is instead of your so-called cousin, your family? My family's always behind me.
Then why do you
Always behind me.
Why do you treat your family
Jay
like
Wild didn't
crap?
watch
Why do you
Sportzwire
abuse them and beat them and degrade them and make them into nothing? Why? 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 Why?
You know what? Because sometimes some people, including my children, they need to be taught a lesson. If they don't listen to their father, if they don't listen to their dad, the thing is sometimes they got to get smacked around a little bit.
Jay Wild believes in
Smacked around a
corporal
little bit.
punishment. We don't condone that on Sportzwire. Just so the audience knows.
You were part of my family.
Don't
I
do that
wouldn't
at home.
treat you like garbage. I'd make you a champion.
Okay, I've sitting over this soap opera for long enough, okay? For God's sake. What I'm going to do tonight for the main event, it is going to be chaotic against Joe Anderson, one-on-one.
What a main event! What a main event, Ross! Chaotic! And Reaper!
Get to me. To get to this, you got to go through him. And if he knows better, which he does, he knows better.
Ooh.
He's going to beat your ass and bury you before I can. Because that Grim Reaper moniker doesn't mean jack to me. I know how hardcore and scary you try to be, and how hardcore and scary you try to be. Brothers, cousins, whatever the hell this Kentucky crap is.
Kentucky.
Puppet master. Young Anderson, whoever you are.
Somebody who chants
Make sure
needs a raise.
that you get a body bag and a plot of land big enough, because this fool here is going to see 6 feet before he sees this around that waist.
What a main event match, Cross! We got Chaotic and the Reaper and all, but disrespect to the GM. And you heard Jay Wild, Ross. He said that he's got to get through Chaotic in order to get to him. And will Joe Anderson beat Chaotic here tonight on TBW Rampage?
Okay, I know that
That is
the Peanut Gallery wants to come in. We'll come back to the main event in a little while with the big victory. But what'd you think after watching that back? Boy, I guess some of the things I've said on here and some of the things you said months ago, maybe they were true, more or less what you said. After all, Jay Wild, it's all basically an act. The championship's a prop, and you talked about family and, you know, how he treats the family, and maybe he doesn't really have a family. And feeling like pretty much Jacob Young is the one pulling the strings, huh?
At the end, if you watch a little bit further, I even told him that when he loses, and even if he doesn't lose, he's gonna lose in the end
Oh, well,
because
we'll get to that. Oh, we'll
his
get to that.
family is gonna betray him. His family is
Well,
gonna turn him because
I
they're not
think we
true
saw some of
family.
that at the main event, and that was talked about on this platform here. We had Chaotic on, and I mean, Mr. Michaels had a few things to say to him, and Mr. Joshua Allen did, and even Atomic Titan of all people had things to say to Chaotic, and it seemed more or less that Chaotic, it's a chaotic situation in the prophecy right now. They're not so
Can
much
I,
a family.
can I say something,
You
Bill?
can say anything you want, sir.
Appreciate that.
You're welcome, sir.
I, unlike the rest of them, though, I don't want Chaotic to see the light. That's not what I want. I want Chaotic to be his true self. I want him to embrace the chaos.
And he's not done that right now, huh?
I don't think with the prophet that he can. The prophet doesn't want him to embrace the chaos because that would burn the prophecy to the ground.
But couldn't you say before in the past he was far less successful and now he's at least a part of something that's successful, whereas he struggled to find himself before being in the prophecy, before being united with the family? Can't you say
And I
that?
will agree that he was struggling before.
Mightily, I
But
may add.
but he doesn't deserve the treatment, the abuse that we
Well,
see
we
on
have seen that. Yes,
live YouTube TV. He literally put himself in a match against his own father
yes.
to try to break free, but was punished for it. And even him himself addressed the fact that he doesn't feel like he should be treated this way.
He did, but he still seems to be with his father and with this family, although it's sort of dived into something which I'll play the footage for toward the end of the show. And we are with Jacob Young, who is not the Black Fox. He's not Jacob Anderson. He is Jacob Young. He is not the puppet master. We are all hopefully not filthy stains, well, with the exception of maybe the prophecy. And my name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice, figuratively and literally, where all wrestling matters. And I like people to support TBW on YouTube at TBW 2017. We're getting ready for Rampage 168. Rebellion was very successful. Last week's show just hit 2,000 views. Congratulations to everybody a part of that. Obviously, we can see Jacob Young and the way he's turned around the number one contender, the Grim Reaper, Joe Anderson, with the lantern and taking that advice has definitely been a part of that, alongside with my buddy, Alan Michaels, not Jacob Young's buddy, and so many other people in the TBW locker room. And if you are here out there, also hit that sub button for me. I'm at Sportswire Radio 657, and I'm closing in on 1,000 subscribers. So maybe if I hit 1,000 subscribers, Jacob Young will call me a filthy stain and kind of roast me on the air like everybody else is supposed to. So maybe then I'll be that filthy stain. And I hope that everybody does, if they have already hit the sub button, tell their friends, have them tell their friends, and you can control Sportswire Radio. And you could think, just imagine Jacob Young controlling Sportswire Radio. Just think about this, think about this. Jacob Young, look at what he's done with Joe Anderson. Joe Anderson is the owner of Joe Anderson now. Jay Wild and the prophecy, I mean, they're in total chaos, more or less. And could you imagine Jacob Young controlling Sportswire Radio? Maybe that's what we need after all. Maybe the All Wrestling Matters movement, maybe the community needs to control themselves and control the narrative, more or less. And maybe that's what we need. Because if Jacob Young can turn around Joe Anderson, Lord knows I should get the hell off this platform and run for the hills and take the advice that Jacob Young gives and let Jacob Young take over and let Jacob Young give you guys, everybody else, in control. And let me get to some comments before Jacob Young really does put me in with Joe Anderson and buries me 6 feet under. But there's a lot of comments. People are starting to join him. Zilla is here. Yes, we respect Jacob, and we're very happy to have him. And she said it twice. Just want to let you know she said it twice, actually. So that's how much she respects you. We do appreciate you, and we like to have you here. Want to say hello to my friend Skulls. Skulls is important because he wanted me to actually, if I could break the fourth wall for a second, he had something that I actually need to read off for the audience, and that it was unfortunately we have somebody in Crimson Crown Wrestling named Daniel Torch who had recently unfortunately had his home struck by fire, resulting in the loss of nearly all of his belongings, including his ring gear. He is known for one of the guys, a huge part of the Crimson Crown Wrestling locker room. He can be touched on PayPal and Venmo. They are doing a GoFundMe as well for him, and we certainly want to keep Daniel in our thoughts and prayers. Daniel Torch, unfortunately, well, his house, unfortunately, was torched on fire or something like that, and we certainly want to keep him in our thoughts and prayers. Obviously, when one person in our community suffers, we all suffer, so thank you, Skulls, for letting us know about this, and definitely, if you're out there, hit up Crimson Crown Wrestling on Facebook, at Crimson Crown Wrestling. If you want to help Daniel Torch, anything we can do to help him, we will. And every contribution, no matter the size, will make a difference. Donations, one more time, can be made through PayPal and Venmo at Torch Meets World. Your support is greatly appreciated. No, not to be confused with Boy Meets World, but a lot of people would like to meet Topanga, but that's a different show for a different time. Let me not be a filthy stain and get to some more comments. My buddy Jake Dvorak, Jake's in your chair next Wednesday. He had a great show, Star Clash 6, which finally got released, and I watched some of it before I went on the air, and he liked to say hello, and he was impressed with something I said, or maybe something you said, and he wanted to do the introduction of It's Jacob Young, but not quite. And no, it wasn't me all along. It wasn't you, Jake. He wants an Inferno match between you and you and Joe and Jay Wild. I don't know if that's going to happen at Summer Bash. We'll have to find out. And Hell in a Cell, maybe. I think Joe Anderson's not going to get a Hell in the Cell, but you never know. Listen, who knows at this point? Anything's possible. But he does say that he's very impressed with the Grim Reaper. When the Grim Reaper comes for you, what are you going to do, brother? Well, Jay Wild has to figure that out, because right now, I mean, Chaotic went down and Russell Cooper went down, and it seems like right now all the dominoes are going into the fact that where Joe Anderson very well could be the man to capture that TBW World Heavyweight Championship and show who the real family is running TBW. All Wrestling Matters, I want to give Jake a big shout out because we have a Reddit chat. So if you want to get involved with the All Wrestling Matters Reddit group, Jake has that on his Instagram page. You can message him, and also our friends at NEW Underground Wrestling. Bang, bang. Yes, it was definitely a bang, bang moment. Yes, we respect the Grim Reaper, Joe Anderson. He's not here, but we respect him. The higher power, I don't think you're the higher power. He's just having fun, though. TBW fears Jacob Young. Well, I think it's Jay Wild that fears Jacob Young, and maybe the prophecy at the moment, technically, don't you think?
Once again, if they fear me, that's their own fault. You see,
True.
I'm just a man in a black suit holding the key to the kingdom.
Oh, that's nice of you. You look good in the black these days, by the way. I think the black fits
Hey,
you.
I
I like
appreciate
the
it.
I think I like you better in the black dress shirt and coming out in the black pants than I did in the t-shirt and almost the sweatpants. I think you got the better look now. You look more like, well, let's say somebody that is going to make sure that Joe Anderson is the owner of Joe Anderson rather than Jacob Young being the owner of Joe Anderson. This man is here. You can expect he is Atomic Titan. Yes, I won't ask you much about him. I'll just move along. I could see that you have more
Angel?
important,
What
you
is
have
that
more
happy?
bigger fish to fry, or more important things to talk about.
I don't
It's the
understand the happy angels. I don't understand.
So what do you think? Do you think he changes more like, I don't know, people change their clothes each day, or what do you think it is? Do you think he should have listened to you all those months ago?
He'd probably be better off than where he is now.
Well,
I mean, look at Joe Anderson. He's got a world heavyweight championship shot.
an Atomic Titan is arguing about the referee and what happened in his match last week with Alan Michaels, and that's unfortunately why Atomic Titan is no longer the hardcore king, but Joe Anderson could be the king of the entire backyard wrestling circuit in a matter of weeks. Time will tell. Okay. Thank you. Yes, we appreciate Jake. I don't know what was the hell yeah reference for, but we appreciate it. I don't know, but that's the chat. I want to say hello to President Zaddy. President's become a recent listener of ours, a recent commenter. How you doing? Yes, we salute Jacob. We definitely don't want to be in the
Salute back
filthy
to you.
scene.
El Presidente.
President Zaddy. Hell yeah, brother. Hulkamania runs wild forever. Isn't that Little Mike though? Little Mike's not on Sportswire. We have Jacob Young. Isn't that Little Mike's? That would be Little Mike.
That's Matthew Joseph.
Sorry about that. That's Matthew Joseph. Matthew Joseph's not on Sportswire. We have Jacob Young.
I don't know.
Is Atomic Titan, has he had seeing problems? Does he have vision correctness he needs? Because that's Matthew Joseph. That wasn't that Matthew Joseph at Anniversary when he leg dropped, or they were beating up on Atomic Titan to start the show? Wasn't that Anniversary?
Yep, that was.
There you go. So all right, so I'm 1 for 2. All right, not too bad. Joe is not a slave. Yes, we free my boy Joe. We freed him. James Taylor would like to say hello. He's tuned in. Obviously, he heard Jay Wild. He had to tune in. That's his last match in TBW. Yes, Joe owns Joe. We hope so. Yes, hello. And all Joes matter. I would think all Joes matter. Actually, technically, my middle initial is actually Joseph. So that would kind of count for me as a Joe. My middle initial is Joseph. But
well, then come join the family, my friend.
I could join. I would love to join the family. And by the way, good news for you. I actually live across the street where if you want to bury Jay Wild, I actually live across the street from a cemetery. And I think I can get you guys a discount on that. So
can you load us out a plot? Because
I actually, well, I'll tell you what, if you let me join
his family,
I'll buy the plot. How do you like that?
That sounds perfect.
Yes, NEW had a great show. Check it out. Star Clash 6, kick some butt. It's on their page now. They just crossed 2,020 subscribers. Thank you very much. Atomic Titan is chanting Joe in caps lock, and I'm not quite sure why. Boy, the chat is certainly creating their own chat again on Sportswire. Now the chat has come in, and yes, thank you, Jake. We love Jake, and I'm very excited for Jake to be here next Wednesday night. Yes, Zilla is our resident botter. Make the Grim Reaper great again. No, I think that the Grim Reaper is taking the Grim Reaper back. He's actually taking the Grim Reaper back again to where he was. He doesn't have to make himself great again because he's now taking the Grim Reaper mantle back, and he's going to be bigger and better, and because of Jacob Young, and that's why I'm going to move on because I can see Jacob wants me to move on. Hi to Jacob Young and hi to the Grim Reaper Joe Anderson. I respect both of them face or heel. Just so you know, I know you watch these shows, you and I talk, but Zilla is basically one of our resident, probably our senior commenter on Sportswire. She's become, over these past 4 or 5 months, like our senior commenter. And every person that comes on the show, she just basically says she respects them, whether they're face or heel. Although I know nothing about what is a face or a heel. I mean, I have a face and I have a heel that I put my shoes in, but I don't know any of those terms. But yes, that is Zilla, our resident commenter. Hi to Zilla, and I respect you as a fan, but I do not respect BYW because they're the biggest pieces of fill in the blanks. He's talking about another promotion where another guy, by the way, another promotion defeated Atomic Titan. This guy, C Money from the company that James Taylor runs, ROEW. So Atomic Titan's really been, to quote one person that used to wrestle in TBW, he's really fallen on black days. I mean, how could this be, to quote Chris Cornell? I mean, who knows? But let's definitely move on because I don't want to fall on black days here with Jacob Young. I got Russell Cooper beat easily. This pissant isn't no ringleader. He's just a failed circus act. What happens when it failed? Isn't they like to play the clown music on loop? Jay Wild broke into your house 2 years ago. Move on.
It's not about me and Jay Wild. It's not about me and Jay Wild. Man, he gets in your that's what he does to you.
But then this is where I'm confused with my friend Atomic Titan. I know he's not your friend, but he then says this man Jay Wild is delusional. So I'm not quite sure where I'm going. I got a lot more comments to unpack here. Comedy Central, man thinks he's funny or something. I think that was Jay Wild he was referring to in Kentucky. You know what? I gotta say, I did love whoever did the Kentucky chant. I thought that was gonna be maybe that might be the moment of the season. The Kentucky chick, Kentucky, 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 Kentucky. You know, technically, I actually my grandmother was actually born in Kentucky. Believe it or not, my mother's mother, who's not alive, was born in Kentucky and then moved to New York City right afterwards. That's the Kentucky reference. But again, I'm from Brooklyn. I've never been to Kentucky, but let's move on. But I've had Kentucky Fried Chicken before. Jay Wild's kryptonite is James Taylor. Well, it might have been last season, but I think it could be Joe Anderson coming up at Summer Bash, don't you think?
No offense, Taylor. I like you and all, but if the Grim Reaper wins at Summer Bash, then you can have the scraps left over.
Oh my!
I'm
Oh my
sorry.
God!
No,
You know
Fred,
what?
but
I don't know. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, listen, I don't want to be a filthy stain. I just don't want to be in the crosshairs of Joe Anderson and Jay Wild when he yells. And you can see things are getting to Jay Wild, by the way. Have you noticed on the side of Jay Wild's head, we're starting to see some stubble, and it looked like some silver stubble. And maybe the pressures of being a champion are getting to him after all. Maybe that's what it is. Who knows? I've got a lot more comments. Let me move on to them. The people want to talk. Figured I'd hop on and hear and see Titan, as usual, is running his mouth. And what was you trying to prove on it? I guess that's Joshua Allen, the general manager, founder, and owner of Tennessee Backyard Wrestling. And yeah. Also, Atomic would like to say, hope you liked my apology to you, Jacob, on the latest episode.
I'm sorry, you're relevant right now.
I will move on. I will move on. Who's that? James Taylor. See, Atomic Titan. Maybe Comedy Central's on. Maybe stand-up comedy
Maybe
is
he
on
got
his way.
hacked by Zilla. Maybe he got hacked by Zilla because he's acting
You know,
like a
it's
boss.
funny you said that because yesterday on the show, we were wondering who is Zilla, and then James was like, "Well, I know who Zilla is," and then I was like, "Really? You know who Zilla is?" And people in the chat were like, "Well, so who knows? You know, so I guess you don't buy into also the AI version of Atomic Titan. There was some talk a couple of months ago that there was an AI version of Atomic Titan. You don't think there's an AI version of Atomic Titan anymore, right?
I mean, there could be. You never know.
Maybe Atomic Titan's internet, maybe his YouTube profile was hacked by the Russians once upon a time, because weren't they talking about elections being influenced by the Russians years ago? And maybe Atomic Titan's maybe he's been hacked by the Russians.
The only politics I'm worried about is the politics of Joe the Grim Reaper being the
And I'm
next
gonna
world
get to,
champion.
and I'm glad you said that, because I'm gonna move on to that, because I certainly want to talk about the politics of that, and then also the politics of that match that Mr. Chaotic had. Let me get to some more comments here. There's plenty of them here, and let's keep them rolling. I was saying I know I'm Jay Wild's kryptonite. Yes. And I think a lot of people agreed with that last season. What an idiot to keep putting up with that abuse from his father. You know, that is a good point for a second, though. I mean, I had Chaotic here, and that was the question. Alan Michaels was saying it. Even Titan was, Joshua Allen, and you kind of alluded to it. Like, what kind of family is the Prophecy? That's not a family. You wouldn't treat him like that. You basically said the same thing. I mean, that's a good point, actually, from Atomic Titan.
But he also made a good point, and I'll give Chaotic this. He made a good point. Sometimes you have to take abuse to know your limits. So if that's what he needs right now, if that's the motivation that he needs, then I do feel a kinship with him in that sense that you may need that right now, Chaotic, but when you ultimately want to be your true self and you want to be free, come talk to me.
And maybe you'll have a lantern or two. But we'll move on. Want to say hello to my buddy Brett Anderson out there. Brett, how you doing? I was speaking with Brett off the air. Brett is a part of a couple of federations out there. He's a part of, I think, SVWA. He's a part of UWA. He's also a part of another one up and coming. He started out there, and really excited about him. Brett's one of my buddies. Nice to see you, Brett. And thank you for tuning in. We love that. That's a good question from Jake. Do you think Chaotic calls Jay Wild Daddy, or what do you think he calls him? Sir? Does he call him Mister?
Well, last week on your show, he kept calling him the man who shall not be named.
Yes, I remember that very well. He didn't even want me to, even off the air. You know, he actually off the air still doesn't want to refer to his name.
Who's he
I think I
gonna
mentioned his
do?
name like 3 times during the show, and he was like,
You almost pulled a Beetlejuice. Be careful. Careful. You almost pulled a
well, it's
Beetlejuice.
coming out. I'm looking forward to watching it. But I'm going to move on because I
Me
don't
too.
want to talk about that because I'm only here to talk about the Grim Reaper Joe S. We don't want to talk about movies. We don't want to talk about politics. We don't want to talk about anything but Joe Anderson. I love how our broadcast team in TBW says Joe Anderson. And whoever says that, I think certainly deserves a shout out, probably. And yes, hello to Joshua Allen. Yeah, for sure. He's daddy's little girl. Is he referring to Chaotic? I suppose. Well, let's move on because I'm confused. You're confused. And Jake's laughing. James is laughing. Yes, we want to definitely send prayers to Skulls. And yes, Mr. Torch. Yes, we definitely want to wish him and those well. Yes, thank you. But Josh Allen's got a comment here, and let me get to it. Speaking of young, you came to the aid of the Grim Reaper at Rebellion against Russell Cooper. But what's done is done. We now know the main event of Summer Bash will be Joe Anderson versus the Prophet Jay Wild. Yes, and it's got to feel good for you knowing that Joe Anderson owns being a part of a main event upcoming at Summer Bash.
It feels amazing. It feels like Joe is finally back to seeing himself as he can be. Because he was in seasons before that I watched, he was always
Walking
advertised as death and always advertised as like the next big thing. And like, I don't know, something happened this season. Maybe it was the loss of the world championship. Maybe it was Joe dealing with whatever he's dealing with outside of the wrestling community, but it felt like he was just missing something. And I wanted to come to him and I wanted him to show him you can do better. You can be better. You're the Grim Reaper. You are the pinnacle of fear. You don't fear anyone. And you put fear into people. See, that's why we don't have to ask for fear, because we earn the fear of the people by doing destructive things in the match.
Well, I'll tell you
By
what, just seeing you guys right there, you guys look much more like a family than, well, Chaotic and Mr. Wild. That's for sure.
this was, and even in this look at him torturing him. I gave him a little pat to encourage him, but
Yeah, but you know what? The way I saw you guys, to me, looks can paint a picture. In many ways can be worth 1,000 words. And from what I saw, even to start this match, before we get to the comments, it looked to me like you and Joe Anderson were much different compared to what I saw from Chaotic and Jay Wild. There's just something there about that. As we watch the match, let me get to some more comments. There's a lot of people want to talk and sending prayers. Yes, we want to say our prayers to Daniel Torch. We hope that he recovers and can get some of his stuff back. You can message me or go to Crimson Crown Wrestling for more information. Yeah, Alan Michaels got so lucky. I'll drop the lawsuit on Joshua Allen, and Ref Charles is being sued now. Move on, right? Move on, right? You don't want to talk about that. Let's move on. Still don't buy this, whatever. This is Titan. Yeah, let's move on. I respect the ringleader. Let's stop. Let's go. It's Scraps with an eyeballs. Want to say hello to my buddy Nolan Money McDermott, who's going to be in your chair 2 weeks from now. He's from the great state of Illinois in small town backyard wrestling. We were from Tennessee backyard wrestling to small town backyard wrestling. So how you doing, Nolan? So good to see you.
hello,
Tom is a heel, is a villain. Tom, a heel is a villain. This is funny. Tom, a heel is a villain / bad guy, and a baby face is a hero / good guy. Let me do this in the way that like Kindle or Alexa or somebody else would do it. Tom, a heel, is a villain / bad guy, and a babyface is a hero / good guy. Thank you, Zilla, for letting me know those terms. Want to say hello to our friends on Taffy's Lounge. Obviously, they are closing in on 1,000 subscribers. Hit that sub button for them as well at Taffy's Lounge. Thank you, James, for tuning in on that. Hello there, Jacob Young and Sportswire Radio. Well, it's Tom, but you can call me Sportswire Radio. I get called sometimes. It's funny. My name is Tom. I get called Sportswire Radio sometimes, but my name is Tom. But I'll take it. I'm almost at 1,000 subscribers. Whatever people want to say at this point, they're welcome to. But we say hello to management and thank you for tuning in. And heck of a match so far. Yes, hi to TBW. And good news. Don't miss Tennessee Backyard Wrestling Rampage episode number 168. The go-home show before Summer Bash next Thursday, live, 7 o'clock Central Standard Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And thank you, everybody, for all of the support of TBW. TBW is on YouTube at TBW 2017, TikTok at TBW 2017, and TBW is closing in on, get this, 8,000 subscribers. And on TikTok, we're closing in on 40,000 followers. So you definitely want to hit that sub button, have your friends hit that sub button, their friends hit that sub button, like and follow, subscribe, Tennessee Backyard Wrestling. And also, Jacob Young, as you know, since you're here, I wanted to make sure I wore my work uniform, got my TBW shirt on. Always make sure I'm at work. Listen, I'm here at work tonight. I got my TBW shirt on. Want to make sure I represent. So I wasn't going to wear an Atomic Titan shirt because you'd probably want to call me a filthy stain. I wasn't going to put an Alan Michaels shirt on because you'd call me an even further filthy stain. So the best thing I could do to keep you happy and wanting you to come back onto Sportswire Radio is just to put on the good old TBW shirt. So hopefully you're happy.
Need to get you one.
I'm going to work on that. You know, at this point, as we're watching the match, at this point, all I own is wrestling shirts. And at this point, I'll have so many wrestling shirts. We could probably do a clothing drive, or I'll just wear them each and every time I'm on Sportswire. Let's do the second option. So, yes, I will get my Jacob Young shirt by next month. And I'll have, I'm sure, Joe Anderson's shirt. And I'm sure I'll have somebody else's shirt. But I won't get a J Wild shirt because I don't want to be called a filthy stain.
Hey, you don't have to get a me shirt. As long as you support the Reaper, we appreciate you.
Oh, I'll do both. How about we do both? But obviously, watching the match here, and we're seeing certainly Chaotic struggling, and Joe Anderson's back to his old self. And I got to ask you a question. I mean, how do you like this role so far in terms of just, you know, guiding now? You're guiding and helping Joe Anderson become Joe Anderson that we all knew that was unstoppable. It's got to feel pretty good for you so far.
I mean, you can see it right there. You can see it. If you would have paused the frame, you could have seen the smile back on Joe's face. Look at that smile.
We'll come back to it.
Look at him. I'm technical difficulties now. Me earlier. Look at the grin, the smile. He's so happy. And it's not all because of me. It's because, yeah, I did have a part in it. But it's because he realized in himself that he is his own person. He's his own man, controls his own fate. Sometimes people need people. Yes, that's true. And sometimes people need people to pull strings and direct them. And apparently sometimes people need abuse because look at what happens next.
Well, let's just say only on TBW TV you want that abuse. But yes, the point is certainly taken that it goes back to what you said weeks ago. And we saw what happened with Joe Anderson, and you know, you came out after several weeks ago, and look at here we are now, and this is the Joe Anderson that we knew once upon a time. This was the guy that was running roughshod, not just in TBW, but in this circuit, and he's back, doing what he was known to do and he's unstoppable again. He is that Grim Reaper, and whether it's what you said or did, it's irrelevant because right now, what I'm looking at right now is Jay Wild is a man. He's lost right now. He's lost. He might be the champion, like you said, but he's just holding it. But he doesn't hold the cards in his own family right now. I mean, look at what's going on right now. I mean, a family seems to be just in. You wrote up the word yourself, in total chaos. Total effing chaos, to steal a phrase from my guest Monday on the show.
And the whole time he spent out there, he was doubting his own man. And
Pointing fingers. Look at the mannerisms there. Look at the mannerisms, the pointing of the fingers and
yeah,
the stares.
Jay Wilder, are you okay?
This
I might
isn't
have
the
to-
man. This isn't the man that nearly incapacitated Russell Cooper. This isn't the man that chokeslammed the trendsetter Alan Michaels off the top rope at Rebellion. This isn't the man that caused Gage Flair all the pain and suffering. This isn't the man that has caused Joshua Allen all these problems throughout this season. This is a Jay Wild that he just looks lost and confused out there right now. I don't know. And there he is. Joe Anderson sits back up and he's back and he's just ready for more.
This was impressive, though. Give Chaotic
yeah.
this one. Oh, reverse. Beautiful reversal.
Well, we know Chaotic's abilities, but the question is that what is he doing? But obviously he's doing something there off the top rope. It's a beautiful move. No, I agree on that.
If you go to the end of the match, what is he
We're going to
doing?
go to it right now because you're Jacob Young and I don't want to be a filthy stain. But, okay, actually, we're almost at the end, but let's go to it. Let's fast forward like 60 seconds later. Here we go. There we go. And how about that? How about the intestinal fortitude to move and then you sort of, okay, you didn't get it the first time, but he gets it the second time. And just look at, he's in a zone right now, Joe Anderson. 1, 2, but look what's about to happen for those that are listening and watching. This is where a family isn't just utter chaos right now. Utter chaos. And Joe Anderson he's put himself through a lot here, but he's battling and you've just been reserved all match. How about that? You haven't moved much. You've been just confident in Joe, your cousin, and well, here we go. This is where it unfolds. And obviously Jay Wild's about to do something here, which he hopes would help his son tip the balance here. And you would think that it's all going to come out into the factor of where Chaotic gets the victory. But here is Jay Wild. Not so confident in his son, huh? Maybe you could interpret it that way, but he's got something in his hand there. And he's about to give it to him. And he's telling him to give it to him in a rather forceful way. Very forceful way. It sounds direct. He seems abusive, but Chaotic refuses it. And then there we go. Chaotic goes right into Jay Wild. And then spear. 1, 2. I know he can't. And what about that even? That half-hearted attempt to break up the pin, it doesn't matter. Joe Anderson gets yet another victory because a family seems to be broken apart. A family seems to be divided. And who's the real family right now? It seems to me it's the cousins, whether they're from Kentucky or not. Joe Anderson and Jacob Young. And just what do we see here? I think this is the synopsis of everything you spoke about tonight, Jacob Young.
Yeah, like I said,
And
look.
You spoke about that at the beginning of the show, right there as well.
Yeah, and if you watch near the end here again, when he goes outside the ring, when Joe goes outside the ring, he sits on the thing, and I hand him the lantern again.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I'm using the lantern there to kind of collect the little pieces of chaotic soul. It's all right, but look, I hand him. He here in a few seconds, I'll reach back up and he'll take the
But
lantern. And
how about that gray stubble? You can tell the stress and the pressure that you and Joe Anderson have been putting Jay Wild through, don't you think?
absolutely, I think he's a man who may be lost in his own mind,
He's
but
lost and confused. He's a mere mortal now. He's not the man that nearly killed and destroyed Russell Cooper and Alan Michaels and poisoned him. He's just right now. Look at him pointing back and forth. He's going around, and I don't know if I've seen Jay Wild like this in a long time. And he tries to collect his son, and I don't know. He doesn't even want any part of you guys. He wants no part of you and your cousin. And I don't blame him. I don't blame him because he knows that he would be a filthy stain. That's why he knows without a shadow of a doubt that not only he's going to lose that TBW World Heavyweight Championship in Summer Bash, he's going to be a filthy stain. And look at this. Look at this. Look at how he's grabbing his son, grabbing him. I mean, I certainly don't recommend this at home for those that are watching out there.
pushing him down. You can see it. Like
This is
makes him
abuse.
crawl.
I mean, listen,
Makes
I don't
him
know.
crawl.
Do we have to call child support? Do they have ACS out there? What is it? Whatever it might be, but I don't know. Ladies and gentlemen, don't try it at home with your kids. Whatever you do, that's not how you parent. I just want to put that out there for the audience. Please don't take what Jay Wild does and do it at home. But boy, I'll tell you what, we watched in a nutshell very well. Jay Wild, he's a man that he's holding that championship, but you know what? Just a prop. He's not the greatest champion anymore. Maybe you were right from the very beginning of 167. You were right months ago. Like I said, Jacob Young, it was over. The rivalry was over, and you asked Titan then to join you, and you talked about strings, and you know what? At this point, Jacob Young, if you say something, it's gonna come true. Because right now, I see Jay Wild, a man that his family is falling apart in front of him. His son can't get the job done, knows deep down he doesn't want to help his own dad. Beast, who knows what's going on there? You've got Jinx, and I don't even want to bring that up. And yet it's the family, the cousins, who seem to be on their way, whether it's via a lantern, whether it's via trust, whether it's whoever may be in control. All of it doesn't matter because could be Summer Bash. A changing of the hands is about to be upon us from what I've seen.
And even if it's not Summer Bash, I will once again guarantee that before the end of this year, Joe, the Grim Reaper, will have a title around his waist. And no matter who he faces, he will leave them and he will take their souls.
Oh my God. Ladies and gentlemen, Jacob Young has been on Sportswire Radio a few times before in the past. No question about it. Jacob Young has said a lot on this show over the past several months. But tonight's different. Tonight, there's just something in the air. There's something, whether it's a lantern, whether it's filthy stains, whether it's family from Kentucky, doesn't matter. What matters right now is that Joe Anderson is got his groove back. Joe Anderson is back to being the Grim Reaper. And Jay Wild might have said he's going to put Joe Anderson 6 feet under at Summer Bash, but I don't think that's happening.
Tom, that gives me a brilliant idea. I guess you'll
Yes,
have to tune in on 168 to find out my idea.
Oh, man, I can't wait. And before we move on, this is where you watch TBW Rampage 168 next Thursday, 7 o'clock Eastern Time. You need to be there. You need to go check out what's going to happen between this situation with Joe Anderson, Jacob Young, and whatever's left of the prophecy. You won't want to miss this. You need to support TBW, TikTok, TBW 2017, Instagram, Tennessee Backyard Wrestling, Facebook, Tennessee Backyard Wrestling. They're on X. Yes, X is such a thing. Go out and support Tennessee Backyard Wrestling. And they're the only company in our circuit that's in the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. And they're on their way to 8,000 subscribers. And I think they're going to get there, especially if Joe Anderson snatches that World Heavyweight Championship or any championship away from anybody in the TBW roster in the weeks ahead. You will not want to miss any of that. Plus, also, if you want to get some merchandise, I got to put the link up here before we get to final thoughts. If you want to get your own merchandise and go out there and have a shirt like I have, or a Joe Anderson shirt, or if you want to go out there and have almost any other shirt from your favorite TBW superstars included, you need to go to the TBW shop store. Anything TBW related, all you have to do is go right here. And you know what's great about Redbubble right now, Jacob, 30% off, 33% off right now because it's back to school. So it's 30% off right now, everything. So if you want your own Joe Anderson shirt, get it. You want your own, well, Atomic Titan shirt's probably not right now the one you want to get, especially if you're here. Chaotic, not even going to go there. If you want to get a Rampage shirt, that's acceptable. Jacob Young shirt, I would say still get it. He says don't get it. But if you want to get that shirt, that Joe Anderson shirt, you can get that here. 30% off. You need to get it. Just get anything TBW related. TBW, I can't wait. One of my favorite companies around here. So many great things. So many shirts. So many designs. Just go out here. TBW merch shop. There's pretty much anything and everybody for your favorite. There's even a Matthew Joseph shirt. There's a TBW social media. Just there's such a long list of things. Even that TBW shirt like I have with the logo. Just go out there, support them. All wrestling matters here. We're here for about 10 or 15 more minutes with Mr. Young. I can see he's obviously answered many of the questions, but let me get to a few more comments. Jinx is Jay Wild's daughter, and I think Atomic Titan just answered that. So thank you very much for that. We appreciate that. Go out to the TBW merch store. We'll pull this back up on the screen. Okay, so let me ask you then this question before I get to closing thoughts. Now, I know you said Joe Anderson will have a belt around his waist by the end of the season. But I ask you, though, still, what do you think it would mean to the Grim Reaper Joe Anderson should he regain that Tennessee Backyard Wrestling World Heavyweight Championship?
Tom, I think it would mean that he sees himself as he truly is. He sees himself as what he can be, and that is world champion. Because it basically wrecked him. Like I said, it tore him apart, and I think if he wins that title, he's just gonna have the most emotion that he's ever had, and then it's bad news for everybody. But at the end of the day, even if he loses, he'll still find a way to rise back up and become something even darker.
Even darker? Even darker from what we've seen these last several weeks, which Cooper found out firsthand, Michaels found out, Chaotic found out. You mean to tell me even darker?
He's going to collect the souls of everyone on TBW's roster before the end of the season. Even if it takes him longer than that, all the souls will be his. And once they're all his, there will be nothing left of the TBW roster but heels and bad guys and evil that will rain terror upon TBW. You think the prophecy's bad? Now you think we're in a dark days? Now you haven't seen nothing yet.
Oh my God. You know what? It was said when Jay Wild won the heavyweight championship from Russell Cooper, we were in dark days. It was the darkest times in TBW history. But if Joe Anderson and Jacob Young get their way, we ain't seen nothing yet. We ain't seen nothing yet. Let the bodies hit the floor and we may collect all of them. Forget about filthy stains. We might want to just call these guys, I don't even know, because God only knows what's ahead. And let me get to some more comments. Alan Michaels, by the way, speaking of people, wants to say, though, he has a victory over Joe Anderson despite what Joe Anderson put him through. What do you want to say toward that?
I do want to say that you're right, Michaels. You have a victory over the Reaper, but who knows? Come 168, we could try to even the score if you want.
Interesting.
Show up on 168. You might be the next Soul Week elect.
Well, I got an idea for you. I actually got a better idea. Sunday night, the trendsetter is going to be here, and he's going to address some things in TBW. Maybe I'll ask him about that. What do you think?
Ask him. Tell him that sometimes you can wish upon a star, but when the star is dark, only nightmares come to play.
Oh my. Alan Michaels might be the trendsetter. He might stay trendy. Maybe he shouldn't show up. So, you know what? Alan Michaels, we know, had the food poisoning a few months ago with the prophecy. He's come back again. Sure, maybe he got a victory over Atomic Titan, but I'm not even asking you about him. But it seems to me as like maybe he shouldn't show up at 168. Maybe he shouldn't even show up on Sunday's show on Sportswire Radio and just let, well, the guys that are about to collect souls, the guys that might be the real boogeymen, the guys that might be the real undertakers, and Jacob Young and the Grim Reaper, Joe Anderson. Ladies and gentlemen, Joshua Allen, I don't know what kind of job you have ahead of you. And I'll tell you what, you just better walk a tightrope and not get on these guys' bad side. Whatever it is, you better just make sure you fall in line to what these guys in Jacob Young and the Grim Reaper, Joe Anderson, are about to do, because we're in uncharted times. We're all about to be filthy saints, and our souls are all about to be collected. Mr. Michaels would like to say, though, ahead of Sunday, I show up every week. You know where I'm at. Well, I guess then that means we'll be seeing you guys on Thursday's show next week, pretty much.
We can hope that the managers and the board of directors put that on, because did you not see what happened with Russell Cooper, your friend? He seems a little lost. He seems a little soulless. He seems like he doesn't know where he's going to go next. And if you're not careful and you step into a lion's den, you might just get devoured.
Ever hear the expression, be careful what you wish for? That very well could be the case. Upcoming next Thursday, TBW Rampage 168. In the meantime, we'll see Alan Michaels Sunday night to address all things TBW related. Before I get to closing thoughts, is there anything else you want to address before we sign off for the evening?
Let's just say on episode 168, tune in, turn up the volume, subscribe, like, comment because I will make an announcement for what type of match I think will be fitting the prophecy's last chapter.
Whoa. Ladies and gentlemen, before we sign off, you've heard it here first. Jacob Young has an announcement, and we saw the way things kicked off and ended on Rampage 167. I couldn't imagine what Rampage 168 is going to be like. Really, these past several Rampages, plus Rebellion, Joe Anderson and Jacob Young right now, they're the family. They're the family, ladies and gentlemen, that's in control of Tennessee Backyard Wrestling. It ain't the prophecy anymore. We saw what happened between Chaotic and Jay Wild. Beast is missing in action. We see right now it's Joe Anderson and Jacob Young. Looks are everything. The lantern is everything. Impressions and results in the ring are what count. And right now, it's the family that's united once again. We saw there was success in the past as a tag team. But right now, they're on a whole nother level. And I can't wait to see Summer Bash. I can't wait to watch Rampage 168 next Thursday night, 8 o'clock Eastern Time, 7 o'clock Central Standard Time. That's where you watch it. TBW 2017. Please go out there, like, follow, subscribe. Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, TBW merch shop on Redbubble, 30% off right now. Anything merchandise related. It's back to school month right now, and you can get 30% off on anything related to TBW. Please support them. TBW is always about all wrestling matters. Prime time, the brightest lights, the biggest stage. TBW has built that. They have been one of our biggest supporters, and I want to make sure we support those that support us in TBW. I cannot wait to watch Rampage 168, especially after what TBW has been doing this season. TBW has been on fire, and they're closing their way to 8,000 subscribers. They're almost there. I'm almost at 1,000 subscribers, but they're almost at 8,000 subscribers. So let's support those that support us. I think I've got the point, my friend. I don't want to be a filthy stain, so I'm going to watch Rampage 168. I'm not going to get in your way. I'm going to certainly see about collecting souls. I'm going to see about Joe Anderson winning gold, some type of gold. We're going to see, it looks like Jay Wild's the one that's going to be going 6 feet under. You've already asked me to pick the plot. If I join the family, if I buy the plot, I can join the family and get a front row seat. I've got a plot across the street. I'm sure I can let you know off the air about that. And boy, Jay Wild, if you look at a picture paints 1,000 words, and I see that stubble on the side of his head. I see the stress. I see how he's treating Chaotic. And right now, Jay Wild is a man who's on borrowed time, and he's certainly a prop right now when it comes to that championship belt. And it looks like you, Jacob Young, called your own shot 4 months ago. We didn't even know it. You've called your own shot time and time again on this platform. Maybe you really are controlling all of our strings here on this platform and in this circuit, and we don't even know that we're the puppets. But I think Jay Wild's going to find that out because, well, Russell Cooper already did, and certainly Chaotic did. Thank you so much, my friend. Congratulations on you and your cousin's success. I'm looking forward to watching 168 next week. I'm looking forward to having you back on here in the coming weeks. And thank you as always. And I hope I'm not going to be a filthy saint. And I hope, long as I buy that plot for you, that you won't collect my soul. We'll be waiting. Yes, we'll certainly make sure. Yes, he's waiting for me to go get my bank account ready. Yes, everybody knows a few days ago, I definitely posted the amount of dollar bills in my pocket. So, yes, I will certainly get that ready. I will go across the street, purchase that plot. But in the meantime, we were joined by Jacob Young, who is alongside his cousin, the Grim Reaper Joe Anderson, putting fear not just in everybody in Tennessee Backyard Wrestling, but the entire backyard and underground wrestling circuit, especially after what they did at Rampage 167, especially after what they did at Rebellion 165, 166. These guys have been on fire. This is the premier family right now. It's not the prophecy anymore. It's now Jacob Young and his cousin, Joe Anderson. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice figuratively and literally where all wrestling matters. If you're on sportswireradio.org, you're going back to your regular scheduled programming. If you're on YouTube, Twitch, LinkedIn, and also X, I'm here 10 o'clock Eastern time, same bad channel with the slew of guys from the IMF who are getting ready for their all-out warfare show. And until then, I'm going to try to rest my voice because for whatever reason, it seems like my allergies are killing me right now. But we go and march on because I don't want my soul to be collected by Jacob Young and certainly by the run, the number one contender to that TBW World Heavyweight Championship. Joe Anderson's been on. But until then, thank you so much for all of your support. Hit that sub button for me. YouTube at Sportswire Radio 6579. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are on the number one global radio station that is